The entire bank fell silent the moment a plain cardboard box landed on the polished marble counter. Inside it were nothing more than a family photograph, a faded coffee mug, a small desk plant, and an employee ID badge that had just been cut in half. Behind the counter stood a single father whose world had collapsed because of just $9. Less than 2 hours later, that same man calmly requested an $86 million withdrawal, and before the sun set that afternoon, one powerful bank manager had lost everything she thought money could protect. Before we begin this emotional journey, please take a second to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes kindness still matters, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy if you believe every person deserves compassion, respect, and a second chance. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world humanity is never out of style. The morning began with warm sunlight pouring through the towering glass windows of Hawthorne National Bank. Customers walked in carrying briefcases, laptops, and investment folders while employees greeted each visitor with practiced smiles. Among them was Rowan Mercer, a quiet 38-year-old customer service specialist whose kindness had become legendary among regular customers. He remembered birthdays, helped elderly clients fill out paperwork without making them feel embarrassed, and stayed late whenever someone needed extra assistance. Yet when the bank lights turned off every evening, Rowan rushed home to a much different life. He was raising his 7-year-old daughter, Nora, completely alone after losing his wife, Celine, to a sudden illness 3 years earlier. Every morning started before sunrise. Rowan prepared breakfast, braided Nora's hair after watching dozens of online tutorials, packed her lunch, dropped her at school, and somehow still reached work before opening hours. His life wasn't glamorous, but every exhausting day revolved around giving his daughter the stable childhood she deserved. Money had always been tight. Hospital bills from Celine's treatment had drained their savings, and Rowan had spent years paying off debt while refusing to complain. He believed dignity wasn't measured by the size of a paycheck but by the promises a parent kept. That particular Friday had already gone wrong before Rowan even reached work. Nora's school had announced a surprise field trip, and the payment deadline was that afternoon. Rowan checked his account and realized he was exactly $9 short after paying the electricity bill the night before. Embarrassed, he quietly borrowed $9 from the employee coffee fund, fully intending to replace it before lunch after receiving reimbursement for an approved overtime shift. To Rowan, it wasn't stealing. It was a temporary solution for a desperate father trying to avoid disappointing his little girl. Unfortunately, someone else saw it differently. The branch manager, Vivian Cross, had recently taken charge after transferring from a prestigious downtown office. She believed fear created discipline and numbers mattered more than people. Employees whispered that she cared more about performance reports than human beings. While reviewing surveillance footage during a routine audit, Vivian noticed Rowan taking the $9 from the locked coffee envelope before signing the replacement note he left beside it. Without reading his explanation or waiting for repayment, she saw an opportunity to demonstrate zero tolerance. Instead of speaking privately, Vivian summoned Rowan to the main lobby during the busiest hour of the morning. Customers turned toward the raised voices. Employees froze behind their desks. Vivian accused Rowan of theft in front of everyone. She ignored his calm explanation. She ignored the handwritten note. She ignored years of spotless service. Most painfully, she ignored the tears gathering in the eyes of a father who wasn't begging for money, only understanding. Within minutes, security escorted Rowan to his desk to collect his belongings while coworkers stood helplessly watching. His employee badge was deactivated before he even reached the elevator. As Rowan packed his cardboard box, his gaze stopped on the framed photograph of himself and Nora smiling beside a lake during their only vacation together. He gently wiped away a layer of dust and whispered a silent promise that somehow everything would be all right. Outside the bank, he sat on a bench struggling to figure out how he would explain everything to Nora. Losing a job wasn't simply losing income. It meant losing health insurance, stability, and hope. Unknown to everyone inside the building, Rowan wasn't merely another employee. Years earlier, before family tragedy changed everything, Rowan had quietly founded a cybersecurity company with 2 college friends. When Celine became sick, Rowan sold his operational role to care for her full-time but kept a significant ownership stake. The company eventually exploded into one of the country's fastest-growing financial security firms. Just 3 days earlier, it had been acquired by an international investment group for hundreds of millions of dollars. After taxes and partner distributions, Rowan's personal share totaled just over $86 million. He had deliberately kept working at the bank because he loved helping ordinary people. Wealth had never changed his values. Now, after being humiliated over $9, something inside him finally shifted. Not anger, not revenge, simply clarity. An hour later, Rowan returned wearing the same modest clothes and carrying the same cardboard box. Security hesitated before allowing him inside because technically he was no longer an employee. He quietly approached the reception desk as a customer. Vivian noticed him immediately. Thinking he had returned to argue, she walked over with visible irritation. Instead, Rowan politely requested a meeting regarding his personal accounts. Moments later, he calmly placed several documents on the conference table. His financial advisor joined through a secure video call. Legal representatives connected remotely. Corporate acquisition paperwork appeared. Certified bank statements followed. Then Rowan delivered a single request with remarkable composure. He wished to withdraw and transfer every dollar held across his personal and investment accounts. The amount displayed on the internal banking system caused several employees to gasp. $86 million. Silence consumed the room. Vivian stared at the monitor, convinced there had been some kind of error. There wasn't. Compliance officers were immediately contacted. Regional executives joined emergency conference calls. The branch suddenly realized that the quiet employee they had dismissed over $9 had been one of their largest private clients all along. Word spread across departments faster than wildfire. Executives who had never visited the branch suddenly arrived in person. Some attempted polite conversation, others offered apologies. Vivian herself tried explaining that policies required difficult decisions. But policies had never required public humiliation. Policies had never required destroying a father's dignity. Policies had never required forgetting basic humanity. Rowan listened respectfully without interrupting anyone. Then he explained something every person in the room would remember for the rest of their careers. He said money had never hurt him. Embarrassment had. Being treated as though years of honesty meant nothing had. Watching coworkers afraid to defend him had. Wondering how to tell his daughter she might lose their home because nobody believed a struggling father, that had broken him. He explained that trust wasn't destroyed by $9. Trust was destroyed when compassion disappeared. Regional headquarters immediately opened an internal investigation. Security footage revealed Rowan's repayment note exactly where he had left it. Payroll records confirmed his overtime reimbursement had indeed been scheduled before lunch. Multiple employees admitted Vivian refused to hear explanations because she wanted to establish authority. Customer complaints from previous months resurfaced. Staff turnover statistics painted an alarming picture. Within 48 hours, Vivian Cross was placed on administrative leave. Within a week, her employment officially ended. Not because Rowan demanded revenge. He never did. Her career ended because leadership finally recognized that an institution handling people's life savings couldn't be led by someone who had forgotten how to value human lives. Meanwhile, Rowan completed the transfer of nearly all $86 million to another financial institution known for community service. The loss became one of the largest single-account withdrawals in the region's history. News spread quickly through local business circles. Yet Rowan refused every interview request. He wasn't interested in becoming famous. Instead, he focused on something far more meaningful. Months later, Hawthorne National Bank received an invitation to attend the opening ceremony of the Celine Mercer Family Foundation. Using part of his newfound wealth, Rowan established programs providing emergency childcare grants, meal assistance for single parents, educational scholarships, and financial counseling for families facing medical crises. The first emergency assistance check issued by the foundation totaled exactly $9. Framed beneath it was a simple message: no parent should lose hope over an amount this small. That display quietly moved countless visitors to tears. Employees from Rowan's former branch volunteered at foundation events during weekends. Many admitted the experience changed how they viewed customers forever. Instead of seeing account balances, they began seeing stories. Instead of assuming the worst, they learned to ask one extra question. Instead of protecting rules at any cost, they remembered that rules exist to serve people, not replace compassion. Nora eventually learned what had happened, though Rowan softened many painful details. She hugged her father tighter than ever and told him she never cared whether he worked at a bank because, to her, he was already the richest dad in the world. She wasn't talking about money. She was talking about love. Years later, Whenever Rowan walked through the foundation's doors, he still carried the same faded family photograph that had once sat inside a cardboard box on the worst day of his life. It reminded him that fortunes could rise or fall overnight. Titles could disappear, jobs could end, but character remained when everything else was stripped away. The $9 that nearly destroyed one family's future ultimately inspired thousands of families to receive help when they needed it most. Sometimes life's greatest blessings arrive wearing the disguise of heartbreaking injustice. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy. Every interaction helps these stories of hope reach someone who may desperately need encouragement today. Special request: before this story ends, please comment with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe compassion is worth more than money and that every struggling parent deserves understanding instead of judgment. Because in the end, Rowan Mercer didn't win because he had $86 million. He won because when the world gave him every reason to become bitter, he chose to become kinder. And sometimes, that is the greatest fortune anyone will ever possess.